Good morning, LinkedIn, Facebook, and wherever else I'm streaming, YouTube. That's where else I'm streaming. I had to think about that. My name is Keith Conley. I am the president of True Legacy Financial Planning, or True Legacy Wealth Management. We are a financial advisory firm here in Orange County, California, working with wealthy families across the nation. Today, we are going to talk about some of the things that I'm most passionate about in the area of generational wealth management. I am a certified financial planner, certified Kingdom advisor, and love talking with my clients on these topics and looking forward to interacting with you. If you're joining us today, go ahead and say hello in the chat. Go ahead and put in your questions, your comments, and any praises, or if you have any rotten tomatoes, just hold those until the end of our time together. I'll leave, and then you can throw the rotten tomatoes. I love talking about these things, and I love the families that I work with. This has been just an amazing transformation in my career, to working with these high net worth families, helping them think about how to keep the wealth in the family. When we talk about wealth management among multiple generations, this is a unique animal compared to a lot of other financial plans. Many financial plans are working with couples who are, say 60, and they might have a 30 or 35 or maybe 40-year time horizon. But what does your financial plan look like when you have a 150 or 200-year horizon? It looks a little bit different, doesn't it? It puts things in perspective. And we always hear the cliche, the longer time horizon you have, the better. And oftentimes we cut ourselves short by having too short of a time horizon. Wealthy families do a great job of building the wealth, preserving the wealth, and transferring the wealth. But once it transfers, that's where a lot of problems start. And so the first thing that I tell these families is that they have to change their mindset of just being, about their lives, and they need to think about forward about how this wealth is going to impact their children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren, and find ways to make sure that the family stays united over the wealth, and has processes in place to keep the family united and in one piece, and to preserve that wealth so that they can do a lot of things for a lot of people over the course of many years. There's a different resources out there. One of the books that I've really have benefited from is Family Wealth by James Hughes, who's an estate planning attorney. Very necessary book. Another book that's more recent, I forget the author's name, but it's What Would the Rockefellers Do? And he makes the contrast between the Vanderbilts and the Rockefellers, and it's a fascinating story. I've listened to biographies on both of these families now, and the purpose of the second book is to explain how the Rockefellers' wealth continues to support 150 family members and give away $150 million or $50 million a year in charitable giving, whereas the Vanderbilt wealth is completely depleted. It's gone. If you know Anderson Cooper, CNN reporter, he's an heir of the Vanderbilt dynasty, except that there's no dynasty or wealth to be had by him, and he's very open about that. And his biography on his family is very interesting and a very good read. I highly recommend it. I think there's a lot of lessons to be had there. But why is it that the Rockefellers' wealth continues today, whereas the Vanderbilt's wealth is gone? And I think there's a lot of reasons. And our time together is not to flesh that out, but it really is worth asking and seeing how it applies to perhaps your family, your wealth. Perhaps you're a doctor or a business owner or a successful attorney or an engineer, who's done very well for themselves, and you wish to leave that inheritance to your children and grandchildren when you pass away. You want to leave wealth. How do you do that? We're very accustomed to having a very strong estate plan, financial plan, tax plan. You might have all those documents done, and a lot of families I talk to I ask them, have you talked to the kids about your wealth? Oh, yeah, we've talked about it. Well, what have you talked about? And a lot of times, well, I told them we have a trust. They know everything. Well, if you start digging, you start to figure out that they don't know. If you interview the children and the grandchildren, they have a lot of questions. They don't know what they're getting. They don't know what mom and dad have necessarily, and that's not a good thing. That's a big reason why family wealth is lost, because there's just a lot of mystery and surprise when that wealth does transfer. And so what happens when wealth transfers from one generation to the next is, more often than not, about 70% of the time, that wealth never reaches the third generation. And if it does reach the third generation, 90% of the time, that wealth is depleted in that third generation. We have to stop this. This cannot continue. This is a tragedy. If you're a successful business owner or service provider and you've built up significant wealth, I don't care if it's real estate, I don't care if it's investments in stocks and bonds, I don't care what kind of investment it is. It's a tragedy that you've worked so hard and have done such great planning for all these decades to only have it wasted within 3 to 5 years. How do you feel to when your wealth is passed to your kids and they buy a sports car, or they spend the inheritance on taxes or divorce attorneys? The wealth fundamentally changes people, and that doesn't mean that you shouldn't leave it, although that is an option. It just means that we have to do a better job as wealthy families in preparing our heirs to receive that wealth. It just means you have to do more work ahead of time. Having an estate plan, having life insurance, having an investment plan is great and wonderful. It ain't good enough. We have to do more to keep the family united, because if they are in the dark, that's when things happen, when bad things happen, when that wealth transfers. What if you had a strategy to keep your family united and peaceful, prevent the fighting, prevent addictions as much as possible, and you had the family united over a family story and values that help them make future decisions about the wealth that you're entrusting them with? What I'm talking about is preparing them to be stewards of the wealth that you're leaving them. They need to have values and principles that they are all united on to help them make decisions. And without those principles, it's every man for himself. I once spoke with an attorney who was representing one of a sibling in an estate where there was active litigation. There was $5 million being passed between two siblings. And they spent the entirety of that investment portfolio on litigation over a wedding dress. I'm not joking. This is a tragedy. This does not honor your life, and quite frankly, I think that this could have been prevented, and I think that not all of the blame, but a lot of the blame goes on the parents, or the grandparents, or the older generation that leaves this wealth. They're not actively engaging the younger generations. They're not preparing them. They're not teaching them. They're not allowing open communication over this wealth. And the reason is that they say, well, my wealth is private. I don't want them to know. I don't want them coming to me for loans or money or gifts or handouts. And my message to you is that's all well and good, but you need to frame your communication as a family in a family meeting, and you need to set expectations, and you need to set principles and standards for what the wealth is to be used for. I get that you don't want your children to come to you for loans and handouts. I know families who have made loans and they've never paid them back. And I know that there are families out there who have, given money out as gifts to family members, and other family members feel resentful because they haven't received a gift in return. These things can be prevented. It just requires open communication. And if you don't prepare your children, your grandchildren to receive this wealth, when they receive it, there will be spendthrifts. They'll buy that stupid sports car, or they will waste it some other way. There will be lost relationships. Siblings who have gotten along their entire lives will all of a sudden be at each other's throats. There will be addictions, divorces. This money will fundamentally change them unless you prepare them ahead of time. So here's a couple ideas on ways you can train younger generations to be good stewards of your wealth. I love this next piece that I'm going to talk about, and I could talk about it for a long time, but I'm just going to keep it brief. The younger you talk to your family, younger generations, the better off. And the way you start the very youngest generations, and maybe even your children, if there's going to be some problems that you foresee, you don't start them with receiving the money to spend. Their relationship with money begins with charitable giving. Many wealthy families have foundations or donor-advised funds, or maybe some charitable trusts. And my recommendation to wealthy families is that the younger you get your family involved in making the decisions on where the charitable dollars go, the better off they will be. Have your children, your grandchildren, as young as 10, involved in the meetings in deciding where the family's generosity is sent. Have them sit in the foundation meetings where nonprofits are coming in to make the decisions about that wealth. And what I love to say is, if the grandkids decide that they want to send money to build wells in Africa, guess what? The kids and their parents, and maybe even you, they're going to Africa, buddy. You're all going to Africa, and you're going to go visit those villages where they built the wells. What does that do? First of all, the relationship with your wealth doesn't begin with them spending it. It begins with them giving it away and seeing the power that money has in helping other people. And do you think that they will have an impression, that trip will leave an impression on them to see the benefits of the wealth that they sent to that village? Do you think that will impact them? Of course it will. The other thing that I always recommend is that you provide your children, your grandchildren, with literacy training. Now, this is going to, the extent of that literacy or financial literacy training is going to be different depending on the age and their abilities and knowledge. But you need to get some sort of financial literacy training so that people understand cash flow and debt, the power of investing, the difficulty with credit cards, and other pieces of phone call. Sorry about that. You need to get them involved so that they understand the power of money. They don't need to be expert. They don't need to be financial planners. They don't need to be investment gurus, but they need to understand things like risk, debt, cash flow, budgeting, maybe some basics, ideas of taxation. Get them as much as they're willing to receive. Provide it to them. Get them financial coaches. Have them sit with financial planners. Get them some sort of education in finance. The other thing that I would say is if you're a business owner, I really want to encourage you to only have family involved in the business that want to be there. There should never, ever be any pressure for your child or your grandchild to take over the business. I guarantee you that if that is what you're pressuring your child to do, and they don't want to do it, I guarantee you won't end well. Give your children the freedom to pursue their passions, but make sure that you help them have a purpose and that they have their own vocation, their own purpose in building, value in this world. They are not to live a life of luxury, but they're to work and have a purpose, and that may be starting their own business, and maybe your wealth helps them start that. Maybe it's to help them pursue some sort of other vocation, get the proper training to become a doctor or a lawyer or maybe an artist. Whatever their passion is, let them pursue that, and they may come back to the business in the future. Very few 18-year-olds know what they're going to do for the rest of their lives. And an 18-year-old going into college may have an idea. I want to be a teacher. I want to be a lawyer. And very rarely do they do that for their entire career. They may start off doing that. They may figure out, hey, this is for me, and change directions. But we need to give them the freedom to do that. Don't let this wealth enslave them into your purpose. Let them have their own purpose. Give them that freedom. The other thing that I will say is that families who want to preserve their wealth need to have a well-defined team and have that team involved with the family. Perhaps you need a family advisory board with family members and outside counsel on that board to help them make decisions. Every wealthy family needs a CPA, tax professional. They may need an attorney in estate planning, real estate, business attorney, or several other different types of an attorney. Every wealthy family will want an investment and real estate advisor. And they may need other advisors as well, depending on your area of business. You might need a banker. But make sure that you have good advisors that are interacting with the senior members of your family to keep them in the loop and making sure that they're staying on track. Otherwise, what's going to happen is, the wealth is going to be lost. There's going to be lost relationships. Your family is not going to know what to do, and there's going to be the loss of that wealth. So I hope that this has been helpful to you. Thank you for attending this Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube Live. And I wish you guys blessings. Feel free to reach me. You can just Google Keith Connolly Wealth Teams, and you'll be able to get my contact information there. I am very active on LinkedIn and Facebook, so look forward to seeing you all soon. Take care. God bless.